And my heart goes boom, boom, boom. And my heart goes boom, boom, boom.
Gentlemen, welcome to the Birmingham Youth Sports Academy, a prestigious community organisation. But legends like yourself, I mean, you know, as a former assistant manager of Pakistan cricket, it's still a privilege to be with footballing legends. Football's my first love. But how important is it that a grassroots community football organisation is going nearly now for 15 years? How important is that here in Birmingham?
Well, I think it's very important. Generally, these kind of clubs are normally a vehicle for them to not only become themselves, as in find out what they're good at and what they're not good at, but to also cross over to the wider community. So I think these kind of clubs are fantastic. They're good for the community, and they help the boys grow.
And Cyril, your good self, I mean, you've been in the game as long as these guys as well. An organisation like this, how important is it in terms of blooding young children, not only to go right to the top, but to play football in general?
Well, I was brought up in the era where you have youth clubs, and I think this replaces the youth clubs, where kids used to come in on a Friday or during the week, do different types of sports, to table tennis and play football. It kept them off the streets, it gave them a focus, helped them develop friendships, and I think the charity here today is doing a fantastic job in keeping those kids out of trouble, giving education and giving them a focus. But most importantly, you can learn a lot of things from sport in terms of discipline, sacrifice, winning mentality, and you can grow from that as an individual.
And how important do you think it is, Cyril, that the people who are behind this, see the value of football being the thing that crosses all these things to keep kids, and especially young boys, into positive activity?
Well, they're unsung heroes, the people who organise all that. I mean, I come from that background, from non-league, and I see the work that people, who've got full-time jobs, they put into the sport and into football. And for these young kids to have a platform where they can learn, where they can grow, it's a wonderful thing that they're doing.
And Gary, I mean, you've been involved with youth development at Aston Villa, let alone being Champions League week this week, a Champions League winner yourself of the old European Cup. How important? I mean, you've done it with Aston Villa. How important is that young people coming through, irrespective of whether they make it to the top or not, but to be in that kind of development?
It's all about enjoying the sport, isn't it? Keeping active and not getting into bad ways. And football will always give that opportunity. I was fortunate that I got picked up straight from school, but and you can see the enjoyment on the face of the kids. When they score a goal or getting actively involved. So I think it's fantastic what you're doing.
What about talking to the Villa? We've got the young lad Isa Suleiman, who's breaking through the Villa ranks. How important? I mean, I hate that term role model is overused, but it's great that a young Pakistani Muslim, for wanting for a better phrase, is coming through the local ranks at Villa.
Fantastic. It should be more, shouldn't it, though? I'd like to see more than that. Just the one isolated guy that's getting into Villa. I'm sure there's, hundreds and thousands of them playing in the West Midlands area that enjoy a game in Sandwell Park or wherever. So for one to get through, that's an achievement, but I'd like to see a few more as well.
On that note, Cyril, I mean, you were part of the original 3 Degrees, and it was weird then to see, it's so strange to say it now, to see 3 black players saying the same thing. That's why you got labelled 3 Degrees. I mean, this whole issue about what Gary was touching on, there should be more players from BME communities, especially Pakistani communities, which are all on our doorstep. How important is that, Joe?
It's very important, and we all need role models, and myself, Laurie Cunningham, Mark Waters here, we were all role models to the second and third generation. You're going to need a PhD to find out why it is that not more Muslim and Asian players can't get into the Premier League or be professional. I haven't got the answer, but I find it confusing, bewildering that, for a nation who love football, you go on a Sunday, going in the parks, they're playing football. I don't understand it, how we haven't got more Asian players playing, but when you get to 1 or 2, it will surely break the ice.
I mean, Gary was saying, Villa, we got Easter coming through, but your original club, West Brom. I mean, they do a lot of hard work to try and develop this. Apparently today they signed a deal with the Delhi, the club from India. So they're trying to do various development.
Yeah, they are. I've been as a football agent, I go and watch the under 16s and 18s, and I see the Nabil brothers. Samir, Adil, and his younger brother coming.
Are these West Bromwich on the West Brom books?
On the books of West Brom, and so they're good players, good technical players. They just need to have that next step up into professionalism. The first Asian player who plays for a Premier League club would be worth a fortune. Trust me. Commercially,
have you got one in your books?
I wish. We're all looking out for him.
Yeah. Mark, this month is very poignant. Johan Cruyff passed away, and I remember, even though I was a Villa fan, I grew up next to the Birmingham City football ground, so I always used to be a reserve team ball boy to watch football, and I remember watching on a Monday night, Blues versus Los Angeles Aztecs. Yeah. So Mark, the man who epitomised the Cruyff turn more than anyone I ever remember, how poignant was it for you that the great man passed away, Johan Cruyff?
Yeah, it was a great for football. As you know, one of my moves I copied off him. I'm not ashamed to say.
You killed that move, Mark. You killed it.
Yeah. Someone said to me, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it worked for me all the time because I just got both sides. So as I say, it was a great. Every time I tour, that music gets louder, doesn't it?
I think it's something deliberate going on.
You know what I mean? So I was a great admirer of him. Not only the way he played, but the way his teams played as well was fantastic. So I was, in fact, I coached 2 of his grandchildren when I was in.
Really?
Yeah, when I was in America. So I've got a lot of time for him and all that he did for football.
But on keeping in with the Cruyff turn, I mean, did you learn it by watching the great man, or,
So,
who taught you the Cruyff turn?
Well, I remember watching on television, and then straight away I got straight in the garden and tried it. So as I said, it worked for me, and fortunately, he used to give me a yard. Even when I never had that yard, he used to create that yard, so it was good for me. Yeah.
So did he ever try the Cruyff turn? I know.
No way, I could do it mine.
I tried it a few times. I fell over. I never had Mark's feet. You see, he's got dinky feet, and he was at step overs and all that.
Gary, it was a semi-Cruyff turn before you passed the ball on to Tony Morley.
Yeah, but the guy fell over for me, though, didn't he? Really made it so easy. I mean, and then I get no credit for that ball off Morley either. So I wasn't involved in the final move, though, which would have been nice. But
like I said, this season in the Premiership, it's been absolutely phenomenal. It almost reminds me of the 70s football, that anyone could relatively win it. It was anyone's game, even though whether you're a big club like Man United or Liverpool, but there was always about 3, 4, 5, 6 clubs vying for it, and it's almost like a throwback to the old days about how anyone could potentially win the Championship.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. Leicester has been absolutely phenomenal. No one would have put Leicester at the top of the league back end of last year. They've been fortunate as well as that the Liverpools and Man Uniteds and Chelsea's. And Arsenal, they've had a great time, the best opportunity to win the league, and they've fallen by the wayside. But I don't think that will happen because money, I don't think it'll happen again because money will rule the roost. I mean, Chelsea will strengthen, Man City will strengthen, Man United will strengthen, so I think Leicester winning it this year is going to be absolutely fantastic. It's great for world football.
And actually, with Leicester winning, it reminds me of when I was a young boy at Aston Villa when Gary's team won the championship because no one expected Aston Villa to win it that year, '82. They were one of the Liverpool and all those were winning the league a lot at that time. So it's fantastic for football that hopefully Leicester can go right to the end.
Okay. Does that remind you of Villa?
Quite a few similarities, really. We were we were not sort of rated, and we come from nowhere. Really, it was always the big clubs, and it's great to see Leicester doing so well. Fantastic.
And I mean, Claudio Ranieri. The first thing I remember Gary Lineker tweeted when their signing was like, really. Really, and it's amazing how all the big pundits have had to, in the most loveliest way, eat humble pie.
Well, he's charmed everybody. I mean, he's not an idiot. He was called a tinker man. He's managed some big clubs over the years, and so he's come there. He's done a fantastic job. Pearson has set the foundation, and he's just kept it on, which has been smart. He's managed the press very well. He's managed the players very well, and he's set them certain goals. And they've managed it. And looks to me as they've only been using about 14, 15 players, which is great. They've got a solid base, and they've got some good young players and given their feet to go and express themselves, and they've been great to watch.
And Cyril, you were part of that team that came close. I think you finished fourth in the end when you were like. I remember Ron Atkinson saying, "I apologise. I apologise." I remember Ron Atkinson saying at the time, he goes, "If it wasn't for the Christmas freeze over and the amount of postponed games, that if it wasn't for that, you guys would have gone on and won the title."
Well, I think so. 1978-79 season, we had a fantastic side. It'd be great to play against with the likes of Tiny Brown, Brian Robson, Willie Johnson. But that freeze for a whole month, 6 weeks, we couldn't play any football, so we had to cram in sort of like 12, 13 games in a short period of time. You felt as if you were sprinting, but you was going backwards. But that's football. That's how things.
Guys, do you remember that period when the 3 degrees first came on the scene and the great freeze?
I was just starting to make a career then. That's 1978-79. Actually made my debut against the Albion, and Cyril and Laurie Cunningham, bless him as well. So that was a fantastic Albion side. And the fact that where we won the league, we had about 4 or 5 local derbies, which made it incredibly difficult as well. You know, so especially against the Albion.
Proper derbies as well. Not nowadays.
And there's another, Gary, it's sad to say that for the wrong reasons there's going to be a Blues Villa derby next season guaranteed. I mean, what?
It's not guaranteed, yeah. Get it right.
Mathematical.
Yeah, get it right.
But what's your take on what, if you pardon my French, what the hell's happened at the Villa this season?
Well, it's been a long story really over the last 5 years, steady decline and all that. But it's bad management and bad recruitment, I feel. But it's inevitable it's happened. But it's going to be a hell of a championship, especially if Walsall come up as well next season. But it's not like I want to see. I want to see all the West Midland sides up in the Premiership. I mean, Albion fans will be disappointed really deep down that Villa have gone down. So it's sadness all round really.
Cyril, Mark, what's your take on the horrific decline of Aston Villa?
I'm saddened. Having played there for 2 years and know what a big club it is, passionate fans. And looking back, as Gary was saying, the last 4 or 5 years have made some really bad executive decisions, and it's culminating in Tom Fox and Henry getting the sack. And I think the chairman's been remote as well. He's not been around, especially in a time where the fans want to see the presence of the owner. But it's been a steady decline, and hopefully Hollis and Bernstein and Little football people can get football in the right positions to turn this club around.
Mark, you go there regularly. What is your take?
Yeah, absolutely. Disgusted really the way the club's been run over the last few years. I mean, my family home's only 500 metres away, so I've grew up with Aston Villa, and to see the way that they've declined over the last 5 or 6 seasons is really disappointing. Particularly the amount of money that's been going around and the fact that it hasn't been reinvested into the club. We've had some great players there, even in the last 6 or 7 years, but they've been sold off. And the 3 or 4 who've kept us up over the last 5 years, unfortunately, there's no one here this year to keep the club up. So it's been inevitable, but hopefully they can get straight back up. But it's going to be harder to do than say.
What do you guys reckon? I mean, it's all in hindsight, but they sat Sherwood when they fell into the relegation zone, and they had a manager who hit rock bottom and replaced him. I mean, would the right thing to have done would it stick to Sherwood?
Well, everything's done in hindsight, but then this is why
this is why we follow.
Gone. That's why they've gone, because basically looking back on it, they've made some bad management decisions and bad recruitment decisions. They brought 10, 11 players from France who no experience in the Premiership. They had to settle in, and then they got rid of. Like
Mark was saying, the core of the team, which kept the team up. I mean, that went and was not replaced, and they all went at the same time.
Well, it's very unfortunate. You can't keep those top players. A top club can't keep the top players, so there's something definitely going wrong there, and hopefully they'll sort it out.
Well, gentlemen, it's still a fascinating season going on, and I'll leave the last word with BYSA. Our last word about this event tonight. A shout out to the organisers and the people, these people who volunteered to put together.
Absolutely, yeah. We have a fantastic night. Looks like it's going to be a good atmosphere tonight, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for the time, and I look forward to catching you in the future as well. Thank you, Gary. Cyril, thank you. Mark, catch you later. Thank you.